David Hyde joins us right now. He's a security consultant who works in long-term care. I think just by reading a couple of articles, and they started a series on this, I think last year, David, should people be as shocked as I am?
Well, Jim, I think on the one side, not really, and it's awful to say, but unfortunately, we have really two issues here. One of them is the long-term care sector issue, which is underfunded, understaffed, and is under numerous different pressures, all of which really are at a breaking point in many cases. We also have, in some cases, homes and staff members that aren't acting appropriately, which just compounds the problem, and we see things like we're seeing in the news this week.
The Ontario Personal Support Workers Association says every long-term care facility is short-staffed. Every single long-term care facility, there is neglect of patients and there is abuse. Is that fair? I do a lot of assessments in these environments, and I've spoken to hundreds of staff, from registered staff to administrators to frontline personal support workers. The majority of them, Jim, care about their jobs, want to do the right thing. But what we do see, and she's right in some senses, there are pockets of neglect and abuse. The staff are not supported often. They work very long shifts and hours. And there are cases where there are bad apples. And we do see abuse and things that we wouldn't want to see. But I think we need to be careful to parse out the fact that this is not just about funding. Funding is an issue. Staffing, sometimes we see one nurse and two personal support workers to 60 residents, which can be very, very difficult and challenging. But these homes have to make the most of this. And I think we need to challenge the homes as well to really have the basics down. And what we're seeing in this case here, Jim, is that the basics were not being covered at all. And is that the facility's fault or the government's fault for the funding of the facility?
Well, it's a bit of the perfect storm, Jim. And what I don't want to see is the long-term care centres standing behind the understaffing and underfunding to not have basic protocols and measures in place.
Why understaffing and underfunding in an aging population where, and I guess we don't target our advertisement to the elderly, maybe we don't, if you have dementia, you don't have necessarily a voice unless you have a family member or a friend advocating for you. But do we not care? I mean, is it easy because we're looking for funding for education and for transit and for all sorts of other things, for health care, that when you get old, maybe we expect you to die and we just put you away and we look the other way and we don't pay any attention to it?
Well, Jim, you've heard about the forgotten generation, and this is what we're looking at here. This is a failure on the part of government. Canada is the only G8 country that does not have a national federal strategy to deal with dementia and senior care.
The Americans do a better job than we do?
The Americans have a national strategy. Now, I haven't been over there and looked at their homes, so I think they have some similar issues to us. But they have a national strategy where people got in a room and figured out some of the right things to do. Here we don't have a national strategy. We have a provincial government that has had other priorities and hasn't put funding into this. Essentially, Jim, the complexity and the dementia and the needs in long-term care have multiplied exponentially while the funding has gone the other way.
Hey, David, I'm short on time, and I thank you very much for yours. I appreciate it.
Anytime, Jim.
David Hyde is a security consultant who works with long-term care. Would you ever put your parents in one of these places? It's unbelievable.